Yeah, this YouTube video is going to be about covering Matthew 24. Matthew 24 has a lot of things in it that I want people to be aware of, and I tried to do a good study on it, an intensive study on it, because Yeshua, when he was on earth, he talked in parables a lot, okay? And some things in the Bible he means literal, and some things are uh, symbolic, you know. So understanding the Bible is very difficult, especially if you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, because a lot of stuff's hidden. All right. Excuse me. Well, I'm going to attempt to explain Matthew 24. All right. I'm going to go ahead and begin to read Matthew 24 in my King James Bible. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left hereon, excuse me. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Excuse me just a second. I got to check my notes here. I'm reading off my notes. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? All right. So basically, the disciples came to him and asked him, when are these things going to be? What shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? So it's three questions. Only three that the disciples were talking about. Now, you know how you can be talking to somebody and you can ask somebody about their date or whatever, and then you go off on day was okay, but then we go along and say, oh, by the way, my dog did something or something. They can get off track, right? They can bring up another issue that wasn't originally addressed in the beginning questions. You know what I'm saying? You can get you could be thinking of something, talking about it, and then say, oh, I'm going to add this into it too, or I'm going to bring this up too, or I'm going to bring this up, and then I'll get back on what I was talking about. I mean, it happens with me. It happens with everybody. I'm pretty sure it does. Okay. So verse verse 3 of Matthew 24, the disciples are asking us, tell us when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? The first question they're asking is, tell us when these things shall be. Tell us when these things shall be. Okay? What are they talking about? They were talking about, if you go up to verse 1 and 2, or verse 2, I'm sorry, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. That's when they're asking, when is this going to happen? When are they going to throw the stones down and they're not going to be there anymore? Pretty much. You see what I'm saying? Because it says, tell us, when shall these things be? When are you going to throw? When are the stones going to be? Not one stone upon another thrown down from the temple. When is that going to happen? Okay, because I believe it's the temple. Let me go back up and check. I just want to verify it. It's the temple. Yeah, him, the building of the temple. Yeah. So that question is what they were asking. Now the second question is, what shall be the sign of thy coming? Okay, and the end of the world. Okay, so they're asking about the temple being destroyed, They're asking about him coming back, second coming, not rapturing, the coming, his second coming, and the end of the world. Okay? The three questions. Now let me scroll down a little bit. Okay. I don't believe Yeshua answered them right away. Okay? I don't believe he answered them right away. And the reason I don't believe he answered them right away is if you read verse 4, Matthew 24, verse 4 through verse 8. Matthew 24, verse 4, Matthew chapter 24, verse 4 through 8 is talking about the beginning of sorrows. Okay? I'm going to read it to you. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. That's the Pope, by the way, just so you know, because the Pope says he's a vicar of Christ. That's what that verse 5 is talking about. It's the Pope. It's all the popes in the past. It's the Catholic Church. And that's just a little side, like I said, it's a little side topic issue I just brought up real quick. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come, but the end is not yet. End of the world isn't going to happen yet. Okay, when you start hearing about wars and rumors of wars. Okay, keep going. Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Verse 8. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Now, what question did he answer? What question did he answer? He didn't answer any question yet, did he? The temple, when is the temple going to be destroyed? What's going to be the sign of his coming? And when is the world going to end? Those were the questions the disciples asked, but did he cover any of that in verse 4 through 8 of Matthew chapter 24? The answer is no. Go back and read it yourself and see if he answered any of those three questions the disciples asked. That's what I'm saying. He sidetracked, started talking about something else. Now he's going to get back to the disciples, okay? Later on, he'll answer their questions. So, and then when you read verse 9 through 13, okay? Now remember, the first chapter, the Matthew 24, verse 4 through 8 is the beginning of sorrows. What happens after the beginning of sorrows? Okay? Could it be the tribulation or the rapture or the people left behind? Okay? Could 9 through 13 be talking about the beginning of the tribulation to the ones that are left behind after the rapture, the tribulation saints? Could it be talking about the tribulation saints that are going to come after the rapture? Okay, and let's read. Verse 9. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that endureth to the end shall be saved. Excuse me. Verse 13. He that endureth to the end shall be saved. All right? Endure to the end of what? Okay? Endure to the end of, more than likely, he's referring to their life. Okay? When the tribulation, to be a tribulation saint, you're going to have to be killed. So could this be alluding to the tribulation saints? The people that are going to be left behind after the rapture are going to be afflicted. They're going to be delivered up and afflicted. They're going to kill you because you're not renouncing Yeshua. You're not taking the mark of the beast. You know, the thing that's out, the thing that goes in your arm, that's the mark of the beast. You're not taking it, so they're going to kill you. You're going to be hated by all nations for his sake, for his name's sake. They should be offended. They're offended because you don't have this. You can watch videos on it all day long. Whoa, put this on, put this thing on over your face, and take this, and you're not doing this. We're going to mandate this. We're going to mandate that. See, they're hating everybody for not taking this. Just like it says in verse 10, you should be hate one another, and shall hate one another. Many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. You have all these so-called false teachers up in churches telling everybody to take this little thing that you got going out. You know what I'm talking about, people. You got brains, okay? And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. It was on the news. A woman got raped in the subway. Nobody's standing around, everybody watching it and videoing it. Isn't that the love of many shall wax cold? They don't care. They'll go out and they'll loot. They're looting and vandalizing stores, taking whatever they want out. They don't care. But he that endureth to the end the same shall be saved. Verse 13. Now let me go on, keep going. Now notice, in verse 4 through 8, he didn't answer the question. Verse 9 through 13, he didn't answer the question. What the three original questions were: when the temple is going to be destroyed, what's going to be the sign of his coming, the second coming, and the end of the world. So far, he hasn't answered the disciples' questions yet. You see where I'm going with this, okay? Verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. When will the end come? Okay, the end of the world. When will the end of the world come? That's what I'm thinking it's referring to. When will the end come? The only thing that we're talking about the end is when will the end of the world be? The disciples didn't say when will the end be. It says when will the end of the world be. They were specific. So I'm thinking he's referring to, in verse 14, the end of the world. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. More than likely, it's the end of the world, what he's referring to. And just so you know, in the book of Revelations, it talks about an angel goes out and preaches the everlasting gospel to all corners of the globe. So if people say, well, the gospel has to be preached in this small little towns and provinces, and maybe somebody didn't hear the word, Father God is going to ensure that everybody hears about the gospel, because an angel is going to be the one delivering the gospel. It ain't going to be your local pastor, local news media, or no YouTube or nothing like that. And another reason it might not, it's going to be the angels, because if you think about it, the rapture happens, all the people that are born again disciples following Yeshua are gone. All you have left now are just wicked, rebellious people. So the ones going to be left are going to be the angel. An angel is going to spread the gospel, the everlasting gospel. It's in Revelations. I forget what chapter and what verse, but it's in Revelations. If you want to find out about it, read the book of Revelations yourself, and you'll find it. Now we're at verse 15. This is talking about the abomination of desolation. Okay. Verse 15. When you therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. Then let them which are in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop come down and take hold on a second. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe to them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. Okay, that's talking about the abomination of desolation. What's going to be going on in the middle of the 3.5 year mark? Okay, middle of the 3.5 year mark. All right. That's what verse 15 through 19 is talking about. Okay. So he hasn't answered the questions yet about when the second coming is going to be. He only answered when the end will be. Okay. After the gospel is preached, everywhere. Remember that verse I was reading, verse 14, talks about when the gospel is preached. That's when the end will come. He answered that question. Keep going. But pray, we're in verse 20, Matthew chapter 24, verse 20. But pray that your flight be not in winter, nor on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. In verse 20, what is he talking about? When will the tribulation begin? Did the disciples ask him when the tribulation will begin? No, they did not ask him when the tribulation begins. They asked him, when did the temple be destroyed? When's his second coming going to be? And when will the end of the world happen? He only answered when the end of the world happened in verse 14 when he says the gospel's preached all over. Okay, in verse 14, he says, then will the end be. That's probably referring to the end of the world. Verse 20, so the temple, he hasn't talked about when the temple is going to be destroyed, and he hasn't talked about his second coming yet. Okay, the original three questions that the disciples asked him. In verse 20, it's talking about pray that your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. So he's talking about when the great tribulation happens, the timing of the great tribulation. It's going to happen in winter, and it's going to happen on the Sabbath. Those are your two indicators when the great tribulation is going to happen. Okay? And just for everybody's clarification, the Feast of Trumpets just so happens to be on a winter. It's a winter month. When the Feast of Trumpets happens, it's a winter month. You can Google it and look it up yourself. Now, remember, in Matthew chapter 24, verse 20 through 21, he's talking about when the tribulation is going to happen. The great tribulation begins. So what's going to be logical? What's going to happen during the tribulation? What's going to be going on during it? You said it's going to happen, but what's going to be happening in it, right? That will be a common sense response, right? Verse 22 through 28 explain what's going to be going on during the tribulation. Okay, verse 20, Matthew chapter 24, verse 22. And except those days shall be shortened, there shall be no flesh saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Then, if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall rise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they should deceive the very elect. Excuse me. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chamber, believe it not. For as lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even into the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagle be gathered together. So that's telling you the things that are going to be happening during the tribulation. It's not talking about the seals or the judgments or the vials. This is going to talk about the people's character, what's going to be going on. And their days are going to be shortened. In verse 22, talking about the days being shortened, but for the elect's sake, the days will be shortened. That's referring to Israel. Israel is the elect. Okay? Israel is the elect. The rapture already happened, took all the people out that were already followers of Yeshua. Only people left now are the backslidden, lukewarm Christians that are going to become tribulation saints and Israel. Okay? The elect are Israel. Those days are shortened. Okay? Let's continue. Now remember, up until now, we're at verse 29. Matthew chapter 24, verse 29, up until verse 29, hasn't been no mention yet. I'm getting ready to read verse 29, but all the way up, the only thing he's talking about is when the end will be. That's after the gospel's preached. Okay? Now, verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect, Israel, okay, from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So when will he come back again? What will be the sign of thy coming? Immediately after the tribulation. So after the tribulation is when he comes back. Okay, verse 29 through 31. Verse 30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Remember what the disciples asked him. When will the temple be destroyed, all the rocks be turned over, not one left upon another? Okay. What will be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? He already answered when the end of the world comes. Now he asks when is he coming back? Immediately after the tribulation. Now here's the interesting one. And everybody's going to know what I'm talking about here, but this is the interesting one. Verse 32, Matthew chapter 24, verse 32. Now learn the parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and put forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the door. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away until all these things be fulfilled. It's called the fig tree parable of the fig tree. Okay? Well, here's something for you. All right? I believe it's already taken place. Okay? The generation he was talking about was ones that saw it happen. Okay? When would it be fulfilled? What will be fulfilled? The formation of Israel. Not when the rapture is going to happen, but when will Israel be formed? When will the nation of Israel be formed? Israel was formed May 14, 1948. That generation has not passed away. because it already was happened. It already got fulfilled because it's at the door. Remember, it says in 33, verse 33, so likewise when you see all these things, though it is near, even at the door, it was about to happen during that generation of 1948. Okay? So I think it's already been fulfilled, is what I'm getting at. I don't see where it says it's going to be the rapture. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away until all these things be fulfilled. Well, it's already been fulfilled because Israel is already a nation. That's my understanding of it. I could be wrong. I could be misinterpreting the Bible, but now learn the parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and put it forth leaves, know that summer is nigh. So likewise, when you shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the door. See all what things? When the branch is yet tender and putting forth leaves, talking about Israel. Okay, that happened in May 14th, 1948, which just so happens to be the 5th of IR. Okay, which was in summer. May just so happens to be summer in Israel. Summer is nigh, even at the door. Summer is nigh. May is nigh. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away until all these things be fulfilled. So in summer of 1948, Israel becomes a nation. That's what it's talking about. That generation did not die off. Everybody knows Israel's a nation. Does it say it's going to be a rapture? Does it say we're going to have a rapture before Israel? Does it say anything? Is there any mention, any alluding to anything? It just says when the formation of Israel, the generation shall not pass away until all these things be fulfilled. What things be fulfilled? The nation of Israel be fulfilled is what it's referring to me. Okay? Let's keep going. And people love to keep using this verse. Okay? And this is I'm going to read verse 35. Matthew 24, verse 35 and 36. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. But at that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels in heaven, but my Father only. What is going to pass away? Knoweth no man what? When heaven and earth shall pass away. If you read verse 35, it answers verse 36. But people keep saying, no man knows the day or the hour, no man knows the day or the hour. They keep saying that all the time. But they overlook verse 35. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. What will pass away? Heaven and earth. When? But at the day and hour knoweth no man, not the angels, but my Father only. Why? Because you haven't had your great white throne judgment yet. Remember, it talks about a new heaven and a new earth. That's after your great white throne judgment, after he judges everybody. That's why you don't know when it's going to be, because only God knows when his court is over with. When he's making great white throne judgment, when he's judging everybody, when the last person comes up, that's when it's over with. The judge decides when he's done with his court, right? Excuse me. Now we're at verse 37. See what I'm talking about? About how in Matthew 24, he keeps talking about different things. He doesn't stay with one consistent thing, and there's many different things in Matthew 24. If you section everything out and break it down, it's many, many things he's covering. He just ain't covering the 3 questions that the disciples asked. All right. Now we're in Matthew 24, verse 37. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating, drinking, and marrying, and giving in marriage until that day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So shall it be coming the Son of Man be. When will the coming of the Son of Man be? As in the days of Noah. We're as in the days of Noah right now. Marrying, giving in marriage. Okay? Life going on as normal. It ain't saying violence and everything being violent and all the people being crazy. It doesn't make no difference. It says married and given in marriage. It's talking about life, day-to-day life. is all that means. Life will just be going on like normal, and then the Son of Man will come because they're going to be caught off guard. That's what verse 37 and 39 mean if you go back and reread it. Now, I'm in verse 40. Matthew 24, verse 40. Then shall two be in the field, one shall be taken, the other left. Two women shall be grinding in the mill, one taken, the other left. Watch ye therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, what if the goodman of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh. Okay. Who then is the faithful and wise servant whom the Lord hath made ruler over his household to give him meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find doing. Verily I say unto you, he shall make him ruler over all his goods. All right. Here's a key that people misunderstand and don't look at it. All right. This is talking about the rapture, when the rapture happens. All right. And he only talks to about the hour. In verse 42 and in verse 44, it's only referring to the hour. Why? Because you're watching. You're a good and faithful servant, so you're going to watch it. You're going to know all the way up to the hour he comes back. But if you keep reading, look at the difference between verse 40 through 47, and then verse 48 through 51. Verse 48. But if that evil servant say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants and eat and be drunken with the drunkard, then the Lord of that servant shall come in the day, not the hour. Not the hour. The evil servant is going to look in the day, is going to be in the day. The good and faithful servant is going to know by the hour. You see what I'm talking about? When he looketh not for him, an hour when he think not, an hour when he is not aware of. The day is Feast of Trumpets, when the tribulation begins. That's the day nobody's looking for. They're not going to be looking for it. Then the Feast of Trumpets is going to happen. It's going to be the tribulation because you're the evil servant. You weren't looking. Verse 51. And shall cut him asunder and appoint his portion with the hypocrites, and there shall be weeping, gnashing of teeth. The tribulation. When? On a day that they're not looking for him, then there's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth when the tribulation starts, because you're the evil servant, not going in the rapture, the one left behind. All right. Well, that's my study on Matthew 24. I hope it's been informative, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from. And like I said, if you want to go back and read it, Matthew 24, take it section by section. Okay? Well, I thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it enlightened you a little bit, and hopefully I'll see you in the clouds.